Hello, everyone. It's me, Erin, Thole, certified mental health care practitioner, and I'm here today talking to Garrett Kopp from Birch. And we're going to be talking about some medicinal mushrooms today, talking about the benefits and clearing up some questions and concerns about them. And there's a lot of science on medicinal mushrooms, and it's really, really quite impressive, like all the things they can help with. And Garrett is really a wealth of knowledge on the topic. So I'm going to let him fill us in on all the good stuff that we want to know about how they can help with immunity and cancer and digestive issues and stress and everything else. So thanks for hanging out with us today, Garrett.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. It fascinates me. Every day of my life now for 7 years, I've been a mushroom salesman, basically, and it's fascinating. Every day I run into just like depth of how much people don't know about mushrooms,
Yeah.
and it's really intriguing. It's almost kind of makes you wonder how we even got to this point where there's a whole kingdom of life that's been so overlooked. But uh, there's definitely a lot of questions that still exist. There is a lot of science, like you pointed out, and we'll go over a lot of that today. But there is a lot of information that still is kind of like a work in progress in terms of the deliverable method of which is better than the other. There's a lot of differing opinions. And then there's also a lot of ambiguity when it comes to dosage of a lot of these mushrooms.
Yeah.
There are certain clues and tools that we can use from the research that has been done on mice. A lot of this has been done on mice, so that's kind of like what we're working with. But my introduction into the whole mushroom world and wellness really was with chaga, and I'm just going to talk about chaga for a minute here because it's such a perfect example of how incredible mushrooms are. Chaga has a higher ORAC score, which is an oxygen radical absorbance capacity or antioxidant measure,
Yeah.
than any other naturally occurring food on Earth. And it's not even close when you compare them. It also is incredibly high in polyphenols, superoxide dismutase, melanin, which is a really interesting thing that I've been spending some time on lately. And we actually have a chemist working with us now, and melanin is kind of subject of what we're working on. But there's so many amazing things in chaga: vitamin D, beta glucans that stimulate the growth of healthy new skin cells, polysaccharides. It can give you energy. It can modulate your immune system in ways that aren't fully understood. It has a unique ability to adapt to your body's needs. It's been shown to help with hypertension and hypotension. So a lot of these mushrooms are modulators.
In that way, would you say it's kind of a lot of the mushrooms I kind of like see that they're similar to adaptogenic herbs in that they can help with things that are high or low? Would you say that that's accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. And reishi in particular, which is probably like the most historic, well-researched medicinal mushroom, it started being used and documented actually in the Han Dynasty 2,000 years ago in China. But reishi is known as an adaptogen. You'll find that all over, that's what people call it. But, sometimes these keywords kind of land on certain mushrooms. At least when it comes to mushrooms, there's other mushrooms that are adaptogenic that aren't really getting credit for it yet. But yeah, they're really powerfully adaptogenic.
That's awesome. Good. So, we were talking last night a little bit in prep for this video and stuff like that about, just the different mushrooms and their preparations and what they can do for the immune system and cancer. And I know I have a few clients that are using a combination of mushrooms and a couple of other things for part of their cancer program. And we're seeing really awesome results with that. And you tell the story of like your dog with, getting rid of that tumor in a really short time, like 6 days or something like that, which is insane. So can you fill us in a little bit more on the cancer research and like what we're seeing and stuff like that?
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of the anti-cancer properties of these mushrooms are also correlational with antiviral properties. And I mention that just because I do have a study with me called Antiviral Effect of Agaricomycetes Mushrooms. It goes in and mentions chaga, reishi, even like shiitake and other common mushrooms like oyster mushrooms. Oops. They all have a little bit of a different, bioactive effect. The chaga, in regard to cancer, has been shown to actually trigger apoptosis in cancer cells. So, it's just assisting your body in killing them. And the unique thing with this active ingredient in chaga that does it, which is betulin or betulinic acid, which it extracts from the birch tree, it doesn't have any negative effect on healthy body cells. So there are studies where it actually, you can go and read the rates at which it does trigger apoptotic death in cancerous cells. And it's able to do this in, sorry, I cut out for a second. In really any malaligned cell that isn't performing properly. I'm not necessarily a cancer expert, but I think from what I'm getting out of this correlation, according to the research of the antiviral and anti-cancer properties, it's just that these defective cells, the mushrooms kind of have a way of seeking out and triggering apoptotic death.
That's awesome. That's super exciting, for people that are looking for an alternative. They don't want to do chemo and radiation, or they want to do something in conjunction with, because the mushrooms don't mess with, any of those treatments and stuff like that, it seems.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And I just wanted to mention too that in chaga, it's betulin and betulinic acid. The chaga turns the betulin into betulinic acid. But in all these other mushrooms, they're different compounds. They're different things. And some of them are just like newly discovered. So in the case of like the artist conch, which is they call it the artist conch because you can actually draw on it and it like leaves a mark. But there's like they're just discovering these totally new, unique compounds that they really have never found in nature. I forget the name. I find it. And by the way, to everyone, birchboys.com, we have a science center, which is like a database of research on medicinal mushrooms organized by mushroom. So it's really interesting. The more we dig into this, the more we're going to learn. But this kind of gets into the different deliverables too, because the betulin, that is something that isn't water soluble. So if you were to just like make a cup of chaga tea, you're not actually going to extract or absorb any of that betulinic acid.
Yeah.
That's why we use a tincture. And the reason we do that is just because the alcohol, which is what a tincture basically is, you extract it by soaking it in alcohol, and then you also perform a hot water extract and combine the two. The tincture is able to break down some of those longer chain molecules and compounds that otherwise aren't soluble or that our body couldn't absorb. And I want to point out too, before I get into the other extraction methods, that you can't just eat these things. Sure, you can eat shiitake, you can eat like lion's mane and a few of these other mushrooms, but if we're talking about reishi or chaga or any real polypores that grow off the sides of trees, this one is Mishima, they're actually bad for your digestive tract if you were going to consume raw, which is important because there are people just like grinding this up and putting it in capsules. So
that's my question is, there's so many things that you can find, like, because people are learning more about mushrooms, and I think it's kind of like a bandwagon that a lot of companies are jumping on. So like, oh, we're just going to make medicinal mushrooms now. And so you can find a lot of this stuff in capsules now. So are you thinking that, are you saying that that's not necessarily the best method of delivery, to take a dried, capsule of chaga or, rashiki or anything like that, because it's not going to provide the benefits that you're looking for?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. And I'd go as far as to say that like I'm certain that a lot of these capsules, and I say a lot, maybe not all, that have some of these mushrooms, and again, not all of the mushrooms, but if we're talking chaga, if we're talking reishi, if we're talking mishima, um, you don't want to eat them in a capsule. And I guess there's um, an assumption that I have that maybe these people are performing some sort of really complicated extraction process in which, you know, they're actually kind of yielding a bioavailable powder um, that has already gone through all of these other processes. And I just don't think that they actually are, because no one has disclosed what those processes look like. And
Yeah.
I've bought these products just out of curiosity. And there's also these things called certificates of analysis, where you actually are supposed to have a document that shows, you know, um, the lab analysis of what it actually is. And
Yeah.
based on what I've been able to find, none of these powders and capsules um, are doing anything good. And in fact, they're bad for your digestive system. The cell walls, the mushrooms, the polypore mushrooms, which are tree decomposing mushrooms, are just very hard on our body.
Yeah. That makes total sense, because I've had people that have said, "Oh, I've taken, whatever remedy before a mushroom remedy, and it just made my GI tract all weird and stuff like that." And
Right.
like, well, that makes total sense based on what you're saying. My digestive system historically has been a little finicky, and I've been taking your tinctures every day for weeks, and I don't have any, not with my digestive system in a negative way at all. I think that they're working great. Like, I have a lot of energy, and my mind is, clear, and I'm sleeping better, and all that good stuff. So, I mean, I've seen nothing but good things from them. So,
Yep. I got my mushrooms in my cup.
I actually have mine in my water jug right now. They don't taste bad. That was one thing that I was worried about, is that they were going to taste bad, but they don't really taste like much of anything.
And are you referring to the tinctures?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you really, if it's in like a somewhat flavored beverage, you're not even going to be able to tell. It's in water, you can kind of taste it, but
A little bit, but it's not.
it's even this very dark chaga here. I'll get a better view.
Oh, yeah.
It's super mild. It's like a really smooth black tea.
Yeah. That's awesome. So, let's talk about like I deal with a lot of people that do have digestive issues, and a lot of people that have, we do different panels and stuff like that to figure out what's going on in their system. And coming back with like arabinose and candida and other types of yeast, mold infections systemically and within the digestive tract is really, really common for a lot of my clients. So a lot of people think that if they eat mushrooms, or if they take, medicinal mushrooms and stuff like that, it's going to feed that infection.
So, I mean, what I would say, as someone who has a vested interest in mycology, the reason that's kind of like ideologically flawed is just because there is a specific fungus, a specific species of an organism in a fungal infection that is at work at your body. And we don't really know the scope of the kingdom of fungi very well yet, but this is one organism that is causing an infection versus an entirely different organism that you'd be consuming. And these polypore mushrooms are not, infectious fungi on people. So if anything, it would be irrelevant. But in fact, there's actually contradictory evidence to show that there's antifungal properties in these mushrooms.
Yeah.
So
like the rishiki, isn't there?
what's that?
The rishiki, isn't that one that can help to balance the digestive system?
Yeah, reishi.
Rishi.
Yeah, definitely. And lion's mane is definitely studied for gut health as well. Turkey tail is too. And that's like with my dog, that was the primary thing that we had him on.
Yeah.
And we were just making a jello by steeping this turkey tail and mixing it in gelatin, mashing it into his food. but you could notice a total difference in his energy and in just his entire demeanor, his coat, everything when he was on the mushrooms. So, and I guess I'll touch back on the deliverables. A hot water extract is like the primary way of accessing the benefits of any of these things. There are going to be specific components of these mushrooms that aren't bioavailable by just using a hot water extract. But from my experience, you're really getting the majority of the beneficial components of any mushroom by steeping it for a long time. And there's a debate kind of about boiling it. Some people say, don't boil it, just steep it. I don't really buy into that all that much. I tend to feel really great when I drink chaga that I've boiled the heck out of for 2 hours. But normally what I'll do is just bring it to a boil. You can use chunks or strips of these mushrooms or grind it into a powder and steep it like that and bring it to a boil. And then once it reaches a boil, just lower it down to a low simmer and simmer it for hours. The tea bags are great. That's kind of what I started when I started selling chaga, and I think it helped get the word out there.
Yeah.
But the truth is that it's not the best way to be using these things. The tincture takes it a step further because we're then combining one part of that alcohol extract to a potent hot water extract and just making it so you can add drops into any beverage. There is another, a third extraction type that is used in studies. So you'll see alkali extracts mentioned in a lot of the literature. And a lot of this was very new to me, but since Maya, our chemist, has joined us, I'm learning that I think that means just that they're using certain acidic chemicals basically to extract certain other things out of the mushrooms. Or whatever alkali means, to be honest. I don't know. But that's kind of what the focus of what we're looking into right now, and what we may have to do with chaga to get the melanin. So that's something that's interesting. I'm going to be learning a little bit more about that, but none of the brands, none of the blogs are talking about that extraction. They're basically just talking about the alcohol extract and the hot water extract. But the studies use all three, and they get beneficial things from all three extracts.
Which is great. That's awesome. I'm just super jazzed up about all the mushrooms and stuff like that, because the research that you've been talking about and the research that's available on your website. So I'll put a link to your website in here, and so people can check that out and they can read the research for themselves. There's a ton of research on the website, y'all, on the different mushrooms and stuff like that, and it's really well organized. So definitely check that out, and email Garrett if you have any questions or want to try anything out. You can purchase things right off of your site, and yeah. I've had great results with it. Clients have great results with it. So
do you mind, Erin, if I have some highlighted sections of this study that are just keywords here that I think people could really benefit from knowing? I purchased this for $35 because they only had an abstract available. And you can find this on ncbi.gov, this study. But I was glad I purchased it because really there's some amazing things. So I'm just going to read a couple of them.
Go for it. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Analysis of the antiviral activity of the extract of Ganoderma periphery against influenza virus type A and HSV1 revealed that the major antiviral components of the extract were triterpenoids, gamma-dermidol, lucidiol, and aploxin acid G. So this is talking about a Ganoderma mushroom, which is reishi, is genus Ganoderma. Reishi that we all know, the true reishi is Ganoderma lucidum, but there's also American reishi, which is Ganoderma sugae. There's what I call white reishi, which is Ganoderma applanatum. So there's been tests across all of these things, and basically the triterpenes and triterpenoids in the mushrooms are a lot of what have these incredible benefits when it comes to genus Ganoderma. And, you can hear it even in the name, aplanoxin acid G. That's probably very potent in Ganoderma applanatum. So the one thing that is significant too is this gets into dosage a little bit here, and it actually talks about anti-cancer studies. Hold on a second here. Yeah, see, so it was found that Lentinus idiotes extract at a concentration of 0.3 milligrams per milliliter completely inhibited the release of virions of HSV1 from viro cells.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and these are things, like I said, mostly on mice or done like in vitro or on like kidney cells from what I understand. But like things that we can actually use as a basis to, I don't know, maybe get a study going on people. Because everyone's winging it right now on dosage. You can do some math, right? Divide the body mass of yourself by a mouse and try
to figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, which is honestly what we're doing right now. A lot of
winging it, we're getting good results, with dosages and stuff like that. So it's working.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's really a significant table I wanted to show. This
oh yeah.
Can you see this? Can you read the words?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
These are all species of fungi. And then on the top here, these are all different types of viruses.
Oh yeah, you were talking.
And it has a dot if each of these mushrooms has, antiviral properties for any of these viruses. And I just wanted to point out one thing here because it's kind of scattered. You see all of these mushrooms have certain antiviral properties against certain viruses. But if you look at chaga, Inonotus obliquus,
okay,
you have demonstrated antiviral effects among almost every type of virus. That so
this was pretty heavy duty stuff. It's like HIV and and, all kinds of stuff. So
HSV HIV, HSV, 1 and 2, hepatitis, West Nile, vesicular stomatitis, poliovirus, orthopox viruses. I wish it had coronavirus.
It could be. I mean, we don't know, but it's worth a shot. So that's awesome. Thank you for showing us that for sure. That's really interesting and great.
Yeah. And I'll email you the PDF to this too, because it's more than I can feasibly try and convey. But it's 12 pages that I highly recommend everyone reads because it's dives into anti-cancer and antiviral properties of, it tests like over 30 different mushroom species. So
that's amazing. That's really awesome. Yay. Well, thank you very much, Garrett. I appreciate all your knowledge. This is really helpful. So if anybody has any questions, I can reach out to Garrett. I'll put his website here-ish. And you can, ask him questions, order mushrooms. If you want to talk to me, about specific conditions and how we can work mushrooms into helping with those conditions, feel free to email me or check out my website, erinthole.com or thole.erin.com, and then Garrett's is birchboys.com. So thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Can I interject one last closing thing? So one thing that drives me nuts is nobody knows the difference between a mushroom and a fungus. And why we were never taught this in biology, but it's super simple answer. A mushroom is like the reproductive organ of a fungus. So every mushroom comes from a fungus, but not every fungus produces a mushroom, if that makes sense. A mushroom is like the spore dropping body that might pop up once or twice a year out of the ground or out of a tree. But the fungus, uh, who knows how far reaching they are. Some of these things I think are probably hundreds of years old right under our feet.
That's
There's a
crazy.
there's a fungus in Oregon that was 3 square miles, one single organism, larger than blue whales, larger than anything. So I think these are like demigods.
Yeah, for sure. That's crazy. No, I did not know that. I did not know that. I kind of lumped it all together. So thank you for clearing the air on that for sure.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to any questions.
Sounds great. Thanks, Garrett.